There is no serial killer. That the unfortunate deaths that happen for a city this size are consistent with a population this size and a body of water that runs right down the middle of it. There's no evidence to support that these folks are being killed.
Austin police have maintained that message in recent years over a series of drowning deaths in its downtown waterway. Still, the Lady Bird Lake serial killer theory persists, widely shared on social media and growing with each new body found.
So police have partnered with academic researchers on a scientific study that could dispel rumors after finding no evidence or warning signs of such a criminal. Now, that report just released today says the frequency of drownings are consistent with historical patterns, average drowning risk in Texas, and population growth. It also says most victims were intoxicated and fell into the water. And despite popular belief, the Rainy Street district is not the epicenter. More bodies were found near Barton Creek and Auditorium Shores. KXAN investigator Josh Hinkle joins us from the lake with a closer look at what led to these results.
This research tracked deaths here in Lady Bird Lake, on its shores, or in nearby creeks over more than 20 years. The result is a 40-page report compiled in part by a longtime expert, and his conclusion backs up what Austin police have been insisting. Serial murder, especially drowning, is rare, and the person known to some as the Rainy Street Ripper likely doesn't exist. Dr. Kim Rosmo spent the early part of his career as a detective inspector in Vancouver, Canada.
I was in charge of our geographic profiling section, which did a lot of work on serial crime, including serial murder.
Today, he's a professor at Texas State University's School of Criminal Justice and Criminology, and the director for the Center for Geospatial Intelligence and Investigation,
where we try to use the locations and times of events to determine what information or intelligence can be derived from them to improve public safety.
His expertise is built on data, and his law enforcement experience includes one of the most notorious criminals in Canadian history.
The pig farm serial killer in the suburbs of Vancouver, a man by the name of Willie Picton. Women were disappearing. No bodies were being found. And this wasn't happening elsewhere, like in other Western Canadian cities. We borrowed techniques from epidemiology, something called spatial temporal clustering, which simply means, do we have too much happening in too small an area in too short a time period for it just to be random? And so that analysis ended up, unfortunately, being correct, that they were victims of this person who admitted to killing 49 women and burying them out on his pig farm.
When recent drowning deaths drew his attention this year to Lady Bird Lake in Austin, he thought,
let's take a look at patterns over time and let's see what they tell us without any sort of preconceived bias. When I talked to APD about it, they committed to releasing the results publicly.
APD has consistently said that they don't suspect any foul play, that there's not a serial killer here. Is this study a way to solidify that message?
This was not meant to be supporting them or be critical of them. It's just meant to say, what can we figure out from this evidence without sort of having a predetermined goal in mind?
Dr. Rosmo admits going back in time, even 2 decades, can exaggerate a theory if you loosely link details to push the boundaries of what's suspicious, which is why it was important to narrow down the cases that matched
the MO and the victimology of the Rainy Street Ripper, if he or she exists. That data, which included locations, latitude and longitude, dates for when the bodies were recovered, and other key characteristics, sex, age, general circumstances. From that, we removed some that were obviously not of our interest. So, for example, a flooding death. We removed boat accidents, or things where clearly were suicide.
So it was essentially drowning deaths in this stretch of the Colorado River, which includes Lady Bird Lake.
Yes, from about 183 here up to Red Bud Isle, and then the Rainy Street district is here.
And so what was that final number that you ended up looking at?
We started with 189 cases and then ended up with about 58.
So from that 58, how do you determine if there is the likelihood of a serial killer or not?
We then discuss crime linkage. What are the methods we have available for linking crimes committed by the same offender together? And that really comes down to physical evidence, eyewitnesses, or crime scene behavior. And then that leads us into cluster analysis, which is the main approach we use. We're looking for clusters or spikes of things in time and space that might suggest we have a serial offender. And that's going to get us as close to the truth as possible.
Do you feel like the results are going to convince people, finally, there is no serial killer?
I think they'll convince some people. Others, yeah, the research is very clear that once people make up their minds, some of them can be very, very difficult to budge from that. But hopefully this will allow for a more moderate and rational discussion.
The city and Austin police have not yet said how the study could specifically help prevent future drownings. But Dr. Rossmo points to an area of potential focus, a trend in many of the cases: alcohol and the close proximity of bars to the lake, especially in the Rainy Street district, where the supposed serial killer gets his name.
So let's be effective and efficient, and let's use knowledge, research, and data to determine where our problems are and what they are, and then maybe what we can do about them.
Some families and loved ones of victims we've recently spoken with still aren't convinced, though, and continue calling for increased security, even beyond the lights and fencing that have gone up in recent years. They're hopeful this will spark new safety conversations among city leaders soon, and we will continue following any of those developments. In downtown Austin, Josh Hinkle, KXAN Investigates.
And the research also addresses just how rare serial murder drownings are around the world. To read the full study, check out this story in the investigative section of KXAN.com.